right, one of my podcast listeners, who also is a contributor, occasionally, frequently, sent me a link to an article about a Florida lawyer who has taken up the idea of challenging Trump's legal status where it concerns the 2024 presidential race. And what this person in Florida is citing is the 14th Amendment, what we've been talking about. The guy is a lawyer. His name is Lawrence Caplan. He's a tax attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. And he filed his challenge in federal court. Let me see. It would be last Thursday. And he was pointing to a clause in the amendment, in the 14th Amendment, that says, as you know, those who, quote, have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the government cannot hold office, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. Now, the challenge by this guy hasn't been picked up by national media, but it was reported by the Palm Beach Post. And the report on his effort, Mr. Caplan's effort, is now a matter of record from The Hill online. Anyway, Attorney Caplan wrote in the filing this, quote, "The bottom line here is that President Trump both engaged in an insurrection and also gave aid and comfort to other individuals who were engaging in such actions within the clear meaning of those terms as defined in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Assuming that the public record to date is accurate, and we have no evidence to the contrary, Trump is no longer eligible to seek the office of the President of the United States or any other state of the Union," end quote. Well, I mean, Lawrence Caplan, good on him, the first human citizen of the United States out of 330 million of us to decide this son of a bitch does not belong in office. So Caplan's challenge is, well, it's being reported as one of the first. I haven't heard of any of the other ones. Have you? Questioning the legality of Trump's attempt to be elected president again. Now, keep in mind, Trump does not give a shit about the presidency, only insofar as it's a shield that will protect him from all the criminal action legitimately filed against him, because he is a criminal. He's a grifter. He's a lying son of a bitch, and he wants the presidency because it's what he will hide behind. Except the state charges don't protect him from that, do they? And then, of course, the oddity of all this, I guess it should be still should be considered an oddity. The vast majority of Republicans love this son of a bitch and want him to be president again. Oh, my goodness. Which is further indication to me that the Republican Party is a rotting corpse and that the Christian fascists have taken over completely. Anyway, one of Trump's fake lawyers, in response to the filing by Attorney Caplan, one of Trump's lawyers said, quote, "We look forward to its prompt dismissal, to an award of legal sanctions against the plaintiff, and to receiving full payment from him of all of our legal fees responding to this meritless bad faith case," end quote. Yeah, right. Now, which is just garbage talk. That kind of bullshit doesn't mean a thing. It's like when somebody is accused of very serious crime or not so serious crime, but the person will say, well, we fully understand the charges against our client and look forward to the complete clearing of his name because none of this ever happened, right? I mean, or a variation of that. Now, in an interview with The Hill, Attorney Caplan said that someone had to take the lead on challenging the Orange Bastard's candidacy. Caplan said, quote, "This is a scary, scary guy. And if he's president, I think we're all on the way to fascism. There's no law that says we have to remain a democracy forever," end quote. Good point, obvious point. It's a point that I've been trying to make on this little podcast is a point that you're fully aware of. You don't need this podcast to tell you what your common sense displays every time this filthy bastard shows up on screen, on TV screen. Anyway, in his filing, Attorney Caplan wrote that the facts of this case, quote, are undeniably simple. In 2016, Trump won the presidential election, and in 2020, he lost it. The following January 6th, Trump encouraged a throng of supporters to march to the Capitol, saying he'd be right there with them. And then Caplan added this, quote, as we are all well aware, the throng marched on the Capitol, forced their way into the Capitol building, ransacked the rotunda area, and even made their way into several offices of representatives and senators, end quote. Yeah. It's unbelievable. That was 2.5 years ago, right? And Trump is still roaming the countryside like Dr. Frankenstein's monster, ripping shit up and continuing his destructive march to destroy democracy on behalf of these Christian demons. Now, we also all know, do we not, that the 14th Amendment's disqualification clause, that would be paragraph 3, was written in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War, and it was designed to prevent those who had joined the Confederacy from serving in state or federal office. But it also still applies to those who engage in future rebellions or insurrections against the U.S., according to Cornell University's Legal Information Institute. Just in case anyone thought, well, yeah, that applied to the people who are involved in the Civil War for the crazy goddamn South. No, it still applies. Now, Attorney Caplan told The Hill that he didn't originally believe that Trump's role in the Capitol attack could disqualify him from becoming president again. You know, I mean, Trump's attorney's defense is, well, you know, it's free speech. When he stood up there and said, well, if you want to preserve democracy, you're going to have to fight for it. Son of a bitch. But Caplan's mind got changed when he read an analysis by, I've quoted this before, former Fourth Circuit Appeals Court Judge Michael Luttig, who is very much a conservative, and Harvard legal scholar Lawrence Tribe. I'm always saying Lawrence Tribe from Yale. My bad. Sorry. Harvard, Yale, what's the difference? Ooh, don't say that. But it was a piece that the two of them wrote, and it was published last week in the Atlantic magazine. And the two of them, as we know, Luttig, who's very much a conservative, Lawrence Tribe was very much a liberal. They together contended that Trump's efforts to remain in power after losing in 2020, quote, place him squarely within the ambit of the disqualification clause, end quote, which I guess to me simply means, yeah, son of a bitch should be disqualified because of what he tried to do, as per the 14th Amendment. This all seems so simple to me, doesn't it to you? I mean, what's the big deal here? Caplan, the attorney who filed this in Florida, said that Trump's grand jury indictments in D.C. and the federal case and the Georgia case probing those efforts make his disqualification just automatic. I mean, and as we have been told before, there is no legal action that has to be taken. By definition, this rotten son of a bitch should not be running for president of the United States or for any state or federal level. I said the other day he would be disqualified from running for dog catcher. Well, maybe not. A municipal office, go ahead. You know, maybe the Christian fascists can stick him someplace in a very Christian city. Let him be mayor. Let him... Caplan told The Hill, quote, the common sense of it is that the law says that somebody who's indicted for causing an insurrection is automatically ineligible to run for federal office, end quote. Yeah. Or at this point, I would say, duh, or no shit. Now, apparently, and this is a part that really, it intrigues me on the one hand and kind of pisses me off on the other. And if there's a third hand here, it makes me wonder about the common sense or the sensibility of people making the argument that whether or not that what Trump did rises to the level of an insurrection under the law. That's a question still being debated among both legal scholars and politicians. Well, the politicians should shut the fuck up. I mean, what do they have to say about it, right? You know what the people on the left are going to say. You know what the Christian devils are going to say. It should be up to the legal scholars, right? And the legal scholars in this case are going to be like a bunch of Orthodox rabbis sitting around trying to figure out what Torah really means. Well, what does this comma means? Well, why is this sentence end in a preposition? You know what Orthodox rabbis do, right? They devote their life to that. In his filing, Attorney Caplan wrote that, quote, one can certainly argue that the clause has not been thoroughly tested, paragraph 3 of the 14th Amendment, end quote. But he countered that that's only because the U.S. has not otherwise had to deal with this kind of shit since the end of the Civil War. Caplan told The Hill a couple days ago that he is, quote, not an overtly political person, end quote. He said his first job out of law school was working for the National Security Agency. And he added, quote, so nobody could say that I'm not a patriot, end quote. And he said he has voted for Republicans in the past. You know, you have to say shit like that, don't you? Even when you are defending the Constitution because of what the Christian demons have reduced us to. And then he added this, Caplan did, quote, the law is the law. We'll see whether or not the judges have the guts to follow the law. That's the part that is a mystery to me. And that is whether or not there is a sitting judge someplace, maybe in the district where Attorney Caplan filed this lawsuit, Palm Beach County, Florida. Whether or not there is a judge who will not politicize this issue, who will take it on the legal merits at all, the filing by Attorney Caplan, who will make a decision, which will then be appealed and appealed again and appealed again, yada, 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 yada. But it has to start. It has to begin. There has to be a judge who will read the 14th Amendment, who will contemplate paragraph 3, and who will come to a very quick and obvious decision that regarding both the amendment and the paragraph involved, that Trump has no business running for any kind of office. Jesus. Oh. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.